Welcome to Studio 5. Victoria Rowell, Peter Rabbit, and Lee Greenwood are with us this week. But first, let's begin the countdown of the top 5 stories in the world of uplifting entertainment. Here are your first 2.
At number 5.
There's a river running through every dream that never came true, made me a canyon.
Songwriter and poet Ellie Holcomb's album Canyon is now available, and it's touching many with its message of finding peace within the pain.
I think this record is like a deep sigh of relief and rejoicing to know that we have a God whose love, that just like water goes to the lowest place. We have all the floods here in Nashville. The water always moves to the lowest place, and God's love runs deeper than our deepest place of sorrow, than our deepest place of division.
At number 4.
Mary. Evil spirits, come out of this woman.
This is the new Jesus Film Project from Campus Crusade for Christ, and it's told through the eyes of Mary Magdalene.
Mary, daughter of Abraham.
She's all right. Thank you.
The animated film is called Chosen Witness, and it's already reaching hundreds of thousands around the world.
From that day on, I became his follower. I wanted to do what pleased God.
And so begins our countdown this week. Victoria Rowell, daytime viewers may remember her most from The Young and the Restless, but she is also an advocate for foster care and adoption. And she has a new film streaming on the PureFlix platform. It is called Birdie, and it highlights themes like forgiveness, faith, and fatherhood.
My mama was a cheerleader.
It's good to be home.
What was she like?
Well, she can make me laugh.
They let you out? Dang, bro, what's this world coming to?
Well, you have served 7 years, 2 months of a 10-year sentence. Means for the next 2 years, 10 months, you and me, we gonna be buddies.
I want to be near my daughter.
Can you take me? The girl's grandparents are her legal guardians.
Get off my porch! I just want to see her!
Really? Are you really Lucas Bellamy?
I want to make God laugh. Tell him your plans.
She's a good kid. She's bright, inquisitive, always happy, and artistic.
Birdie, how did this come to you, this project?
Well, I was approached by the director, Greg Allen Williams, who also stars as my husband, and I was absolutely delighted by the content. To portray a couple, a married couple, grandparents of our lovely granddaughter, who we have custody of. And I was intrigued by the depth of the writing. It's very painful, but there has to be resolution, and that's what this movie is about. Resolution, conflict resolution, hope, love, faith, family.
The whole idea and need for forgiveness, and especially between a father and a daughter, that relationship. What spoke to you there?
Well, I grew up in foster care, and I grew up fatherless. I just found my father last year. Here you have a loving father who wants his parental rights back. And there was soul searching between my character, Catherine Cooper, and my husband. We were protective and we were concerned. Our son-in-law was a good person, but because of drunk driving, he was sentenced. So, you know, it's a powerful story, and I loved that father-daughter relationship.
You can call me Birdman, because I'm an expert.
That's ridiculous.
All right, that's cold.
More like Birdie, because you're starting a new life, like a little bird.
You've been a powerful and vocal voice in the world of foster care and adoption. What drives that for you?
Children are taught things in life. To love each other, to recognize behavior and social obligations. And I was taught reciprocity, like you don't get something and not give back. And I knew I was given even as a child, I knew that my circumstance was special and important. These people were in my life, and it wasn't an accident. My foster mother was very spiritual and a praying woman. I think we all are given a set of situations, a roadmap, if you will, a life roadmap. And people might look at my life and say, oh, you know, and see it as piteous or how sad. But I believe that we're destined to live the lives that we live so that we will go forth and perhaps do better by not only self, but help others. It's all very, very important to me. We have over 400 to 500,000 children at any given time in foster care in the United States of America, with 100,000 children available for adoption, not to mention the children on the southern border who have walked from as far away as Venezuela. So I feel very fortunate. It's part of my inheritance to be a part of this community.
I think it's good having you here.
Birdie is streaming right now on PureFlix.
Still ahead.
Action!
Going behind the scenes of a favorite furry tale.
I hope you guys aren't visual learners.
We start with the script and then we concept how the character should look. After the concept art, we start to build the model and we start to design the look and the surfacing and the fur, and then we start to do motion tests.
The creators of Peter Rabbit 2 join us next.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
At number 3.
I'm a musician and a music lover, and we're here to celebrate and talk of my directorial debut, Summer of Soul.
Questlove shares the story behind his film, Summer of Soul.
The concert took my life into color, but then the festival was forgotten.
There were over 47 reels of footage. Miraculously, it sat in Hal Tolson's basement for 50 years. We had to restore it, so that took 5 months alone for them to just go frame by frame by frame, dusting it, making sure that it didn't snap or anything.
A day after the death of Dr. Martin Luther King, in more than 100 cities, violence broke out.
After the assassination of Martin Luther King, many in the inner city, from Detroit to Philadelphia to Atlanta, like places were just erupting in anger, righteous anger.
It's too late now. We are ready to start. We're going to finish it up.
Not wanting to repeat what happened the summer of '68, the city allowed for this festival to happen just to have something sort of constructive and like, okay, whew, made it the whole summer without one broken storefront.
At number 2.
The world has a way of changing. And we change too.
I know some people, they would die for me.
There are moments that separate us.
They're my family.
But we always come back together.
We heard y'all needed a little love out here.
Headlines suggest the summer box office is heating up with its biggest number since the pandemic shut down theaters.
$70 million for F9. The latest Fast and Furious sequel's debut dominated the domestic box office, as expected, setting a new pandemic opening record, $23 million more than the previous record holder, A Quiet Place Part 2.
And our countdown continues a little bit later in the show. You'll want to stick around for this week's #1 story. Right now, we turn to the world of animation and a story that certainly isn't just for Easter. Peter Rabbit just can't seem to shake his reputation for mischief. And now he adventures out of the garden and finds himself in a world where his mischief is appreciated. But there's a catch. Here's a look at Peter Rabbit 2, The Runaway.
No, those are Mr. McGregor's. I swear, if it wasn't for me.
Peter, just leave my tomatoes alone. You have everything else. Honestly, my kids would be so much better behaved.
Go easy on him.
As soon as they have a baby, we're done for. Maybe we're better off without them.
Don't stare at the scenery rushing by. Look at a fixed point on the horizon and just lock your eyes onto that.
And action!
I always say this movie is making 2 movies. You make the first movie when you shoot it, and you make the second movie in the VFX.
Bullseye!
The big challenge for us on Peter Rabbit 2 was finding that sweet spot between them being realistic animals, but then emoting as characters that you totally believe.
It's really the rabbit story. I just wrote it down.
Look, Dad, it's Peter Rabbit.
I hate that I'm the face of this.
He's a little naughty.
What?
There's all sorts of new interesting characters as well. There's Barnabas.
Nice to meet you.
2 cats meeting some kitten, and then also Sammy Whiskers, a rat.
I hope you guys aren't visual learners.
We start with the script, and then we concept how the character should look. After the concept art, we start to build the model, and we start to design the look and the surfacing and the fur, and then we start to do motion tests.
We get the reference from the voice actors, so James Corden, for example, is extremely animated in his face.
There's so much more going on in this film.
There's a lot more interaction. The live-action characters are fighting with the characters all over the place.
The animals all have to take out the farmers.
There's a farmer.
So they do all sorts of different things, like Mrs. Tiggerwinkle blows curry powder into a farmer's face.
Fantastic.
We had a cheese pushing machine, which was a machine designed to kick each individual cheese.
Run!
It's always interesting and new every day, just imagining what you could do with these different characters and bringing them to life.
I'm gonna live forever!
Peter, stay out of trouble.
Told you he has it in for me. He was talking to all of us.
I'm talking to you, Peter. Specifically, stay out of trouble.
Peter Rabbit 2, The Runaway, is available for you to see right now. With that, it is now time to share this week's story in pictures. Here's your Studio 5 snapshot.
Meet Gwen Goldman, who lived out a childhood dream this week at 70 years old. The Connecticut resident served as honorary Batgirl Monday at Yankee Stadium. Some 6 decades after the team told her she had no place in the dugout because of her gender. That was the written response to her letter as a 10-year-old girl who was a Yankee fan. But Monday, she donned the pinstripes and was in the dugout as her Bronx Bombers played the Los Angeles Angels. Goldman said of the day, "This is all real. This isn't a dream. I've never had such an amazing, overwhelming, wonderful feeling like this, except probably when my children were born." Her photo story is this week's Studio 5 snapshot. Just moments away.
If tomorrow all the things were gone, I'd work for all my life.
Lee Greenwood shares a new and unique take on his patriotic anthem, and it's just in time for the 4th of July.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
America is poised to celebrate its birth this weekend with the 4th of July celebrations. Recording artist Lee Greenwood's God Bless the USA is sure to be a part of many of those celebrations. He's with us in Studio 5 this week, sharing the story behind the song and a new Bible celebrating America and what's become a Greenwood anthem to his country.
If tomorrow all the things were gone, I'd work for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife.
Where did this love of country for you come from? What happened?
My father joined the Navy right after the bombing of Pearl Harbor. I was a year old.
And they can't take that away.
And my mother and father divorced. So I was raised on a farm in Sacramento, California, and my grandparents were just wonderful. I was allowed to excel in music and sports as long as I did my job on the farm, and I did. And I think as a farmer, when you learn to work with the earth, you have great respect for it. I left home at 17 years old and went to Vegas, not really seeing the rest of the country, the rest of the world through normal eyes, because Nevada was kind of a bubble, but I lived through the Vietnam era. I think that's when I began to formulate my opinion about the country, the sacrifice everybody has made for it, and how we will survive as a nation.
Where there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say,
That's love of country, and of course you have a passionate love of God. Where did that come from?
My grandparents, I don't believe, were very religious, but they recognized that a young man of my age was pretty wild. They needed to make sure that I had something that would ground me. It meant a lot to me to have something very strong, bigger than my parents, because I didn't know my parents very well. I only knew my grandparents. So it gave me a lot of internal strength as I struck out on my own at 17 years old.
More on the song real quick. Take me back to the history of how that came to you.
We were touring extremely heavy, 300 days a year. It was George Strait, the Oak Ridge Boys, Barbara Mandrell, and Reba McEntire. We're all just touring fiends. And then I start wondering why I'm doing this. Am I having an effect on a community of people, on a culture? And I began to reflect on my childhood and how important it was for me to see men who were dressed in uniform ride by in a parade, and just kind of stood up a little straighter when the flag went by and the military went by. And so I reflected on those days, and it just came to me one day somewhere between Texas and Arkansas. I was riding my bus. It was only going to be a tribute to my country. It wasn't a big song at first, but it wasn't until the Gulf War. General Schwarzkopf used it as the song of the war, and then the attack on America in 2001, and more Americans became familiar with it and then started using it as a way of unity.
God bless, please bless the USA.
And now you've taken on, I guess, a new incarnation of this with a Bible. Tell me about the project.
I really love this. When they brought this idea to me about a leather-bound Holy Bible that is a patriotic Bible, I love the idea. They asked me if I would go ahead and write the lyrics for God Bless the USA, but just the chorus. I'm proud to be an American, or at least I know I'm free. And I did that and signed it. So that's the only place my name appears on the Bible, is the signature underneath, because I'm the author. Then in the back of the Bible, we present the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, and the Pledge of Allegiance. Now, what you have is those people who want to discover what America's about, and not just citizens of this country, but somebody who wants to know how this country got started. You have all of those words that they can refer to in our official documents. And so it gives more people an opinion, I think, about the beginning of our country and not just where we are now.
How important or how closely tied do you think our history is to God?
We're but a minute part of God's plan for our earth and our humanity. I don't know, unless you keep the faith, God will turn his back on you. And so I think it's yet to be determined how important our country is to the great Almighty.
What's your hope for the project that you're working on with this Bible coming out, especially as we approach the 4th of July?
Well, we call it a patriotic Bible, and I'm humbled to be associated with it, to offer something that has not been offered before. You know, I believe that America needs faith. You know, our immigrants who came here from England and all over the rest of the world, they didn't come here to escape religion. They came here to escape persecution from the king. I mean, I'm a Christian, I'm a conservative Christian, and I'm okay whatever faith someone has as an American. You just need to believe in something bigger than you. And for me, it's Jesus Christ and God.
Lee is introducing the limited edition God Bless America Bible while on tour this summer and through direct sale. With that, we have made it to the final headline in this week's countdown of uplifting entertainment stories. Here's what's finishing on top this week.
At number 1.
Aretha Franklin.
What you?
The Queen of Soul.
Baby, I got.
We know her as this legend.
What you need?
But there's a story to everyone.
You know I got it.
The creators of the long-awaited film Respect give Studio 5 the first behind-the-scenes look at the project.
The thing that kept coming to me was the idea of a woman who has the greatest voice in the world.
You're special, Ree.
But who still doesn't know what her voice is.
Until you find the songs that move you, you ain't going nowhere.
She wasn't born the Queen of Soul.
I need a change.
She became the Queen of Soul. And the journey is, how did she become it artistically and personally?
This song goes out to anyone who's ever felt mistreated.
Jennifer knew Aretha and sang with her. And so Aretha chose Jennifer to play her.
Aretha identified in her, this is who I want. This is who would be able to deliver what it is that I deliver.
When I look back at my career, Aretha was like the blueprint of it all. It's like it was destined in a way.
This is one of the ones where there's nothing to hold back.
She has that thing in her voice like Aretha has in her voice, the anointing. She can sing anything.
She'll sing a song down and I'll go, oh my God. I don't want them to all see me crying because this is the best thing I've ever heard. And that was take one.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah!
Still to come. Actress Victoria Rowell finds her key in comedy and leaves us all with a lesson for life.
Christians around the world are standing with the Israelis. But why? In CBN's free magazine, Friends of Israel, you'll discover why Christians are supporting the Jewish state, how Israel is fulfilling prophecy as a light to the nations, and ways you can pray for the people of Israel. Israel needs the support of friends like you. Call now or go to cbn.com to get your free copy of Friends of Israel.
Heavenly Father, we do thank you for the work of your Spirit, Lord God, with this movement of getting the Bible,
yes,
Lord, into public schools.
Watch The Prayer Link. Tuesday morning at 7:30 on the CBN News Channel.
And welcome back to Studio 5. This week's soundtrack comes courtesy of Brian Camphor and One Way. It is another anthem, and it is what's playing in my ear.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it reach.
Lift every voice and sing. On that musical note, we are almost out of time for this week's edition of Studio 5. So let's look ahead and see what's coming up next week.
How's everyone doing? I'm Questlove, director of Summer Soul, and we are here in Mount Morris Park in the heart of Harlem, later christened Marcus Garvey Park in 1973.
Questlove returns with more from his film Summer of Soul.
So many luminaries came together, from B.B. King, Gladys Knight and the Pips, Stevie Wonder, Sly and the Family Stone, Hugh Masekela, Nina Simone, Moms Mabley, Willie Tyler and Lester. There was Max Roach and Abby Lincoln, Latin music, African music. So many artists that came here to use the power of music to heal people.
It's a personal tour you won't want to miss.
Day by day, month by month, we started noticing the parallels of 1969 and 50 years later. The same things that they were talking about back then were happening to us right now.
We hope you'll join us for that story and much more come next week. As for this week, we want to give the final word to actress Victoria Rowell.
You mentioned that you just found your father. Tell me about that search and how was it, that journey?
The journey was long and arduous, and I'd pick it up and I'd put it back down. I started when I was 15. I had no information. There was nothing on the birth certificate. And I have a tremendous amount of faith. And I was encouraged to search for all that I am made of. And I knew my mother, I'd met her, but I wanted to find my dad, and I worked with Ancestry.com, and it was glorious.
If you could go back and speak to that young girl in foster care, that young Victoria, knowing what you know now, what kind of advice would you have shared with her? What would you say?
Well, it's what Agatha told me, my foster mother, which was just stay the course, be yourself, stay true to your path, and always have faith in God.
And Victoria, that is a great final word for this edition of Studio 5 and this week's look at uplifting entertainment. Until next time, make time to uplift someone around you, and then please come right back here and see where Studio 5 takes you next week. Bye-bye, everybody.